December 27th. We're excited to be with you today. First of all, I hope all of you had an amazing Christmas this past Sunday. I hope that your Christmas holiday was filled with lots of joy, lots of love, lots of peace, and hopefully lots of gifts. We're excited today. I have my brother on with me. We're going to chat it up today, Kevin. I'm excited to have this iconic community leader with us who does amazing work. Everything you could think of, he does it. I mean, I have seen it all. But today we're going to talk about his work in the area of what he does with veterans. This is an area that we don't highlight enough, but we must talk about because veterans are so essential to our communities, to our world, to our society, and we have none other than Kevin that's going to take us further in the conversation. So we're going to give you a few more moments to tune in from wherever you are. We definitely want to amplify this message as always, so we want you to like this video if you're listening from Facebook and share it also to your networks. If you are listening through LinkedIn, how about you share it with a group that you're a part of? So you may be a part of a group that you post in. We want you to share this message out to that group. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel so that you can get updates on what's going on and what our next fireside chats are. We want you to subscribe. Kevin, I'm so happy that you're with me today and that you're joining. You've had the pleasure of having me on your shows in the past, and now I get to bring you on and interview you. So the tides have turned. So I'm so happy you're here. I am grateful to share the space with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for me. It's the pleasure and honor is all really mine. Thank you.
I loved it. I love it. Yeah. So backstory here for those that are like, well, when did she come on his show? And a few years ago and running for office, and just give me, I'm looking down at the same time because I'm also trying to share this on my social media as I'm telling you to share it. But a few years ago, I ran for office as city council, and Kevin, this is where Kevin and I got connected. Kevin had me on his show. He has a number of shows that he does, but one of his shows where he talks about real issues that's going on in the community. We're from the same community, which is the Northeast Bronx Community District 12. And so, him being a community advocate and leader reached out to me to bring me on his show, and through that we were able to develop a sisterhood and a brotherhood that's been unbreakable. So I am so grateful that we've maintained our connection over the years. I think it's going on 3 years now. He's a true brother and a true community advocate. He says what no one wants to say. He says the truth, y'all. So you can't get no more real than Kevin.
I appreciate it. By the way, I think you should have really won that election. It
You
just
know,
it taught me how much I don't ever want to become a politician. Yeah.
oh my goodness. So we gotta talk about that another time. But um I do want to read Kevin's bio. Kevin Meggett's bio. He is a former United States Navy. He served in the Gulf War. This I just found out, y'all. I did not know this before. Served in the Gulf War. He is the director of the Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, better known as HVRP. He is an advocate for national protection for veterans and highlighting the fact that there is war on veterans and veterans services. Kevin Meggett is also United States Navy. In his professional life, he serves as the Homeless Veterans Director, but in his private life, he's an advocate for the national protection of veterans. He also does a lot of other initiatives in the community. Um, some of them is he runs a media show, and I guess you can talk a little bit about that, Kevin. He also does a
Sure.
lot of work in the area of community advocacy. And so I'd love for you to highlight the things that are not listed in your bio, but that I know you also do within the community. So thanks again, Kevin, for being with us, and please highlight some of the other work that you do.
Okay, well, I'm a father, a single father of three. I don't have any young children, none anymore. Well, I just reconnected with or connected with my daughter in eons. Like I haven't seen her since she was 1 year old. So I was able to do that this year, and so I have three girls, and so I'm a father first. Gulf War veteran. We highlight. I just advocate for. I stand on the principles of justice and freedom, and not the illusion of we have this now society that we're free and we're not. You know, I mean, if you could think of just a prisonless prison, that's all mental. We have to emancipate our mind, like the great Bob Marley once said. You have to, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. So there's being a slave and being enslaved, and unfortunately, a lot of our people just, I guess, out of sheer ignorance, and some, but nevertheless, we're more enslaved than we are slavery.
It's interesting. I know this is not our topic, but it's so in alignment with what we've been discussing over, I want to say, maybe the last few months through our fireside chats. And last week we brought on Dr. Carmen Black from Yale University, and she talked to us about medical racism. And it was a really profound topic because, we talked about racialized algorithms that exist within our medical system. And just the fact that when doctors are trained, they're trained to be white males in the medical profession and not trained to be ethnically sensitive or ethnically centered. And so, and how that plays out in even the care that doctors give to patients, especially Black patients. So, when you're talking about racism, you're talking about the enslavement of the mind. This is such a mass topic that can be dissected in so many ways, and that really it is in every facet of our society, and every system, and everything that we can think of, it exists there. And so, when we're also thinking about the idea of just the mental slavery, it's also what you mentioned. It's in the consciousness of almost every human that lives in America and outside of America, because it's the way in which we were trained. It's a social contract that we were born into that we did not get to opt out of, I like to call it. So a lot of times we spend our lives trying to understand the system that we did not create, that we were born into. And sometimes it seems very overwhelming. It seems helpless. And it's like this journey. You're trying to discover, what is this system? What is this huge thing that was created, right? And that was not created or designed for us, but designed for us not to essentially be suppressed.
That's right.
And so there's a lot to unpack in that. Before we move on, is there anything you wanted to respond to? And then
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You used the doc book by a sister named Harriet A. Washington, and it's called Medical Apartheid. So it's a very, very good read, and that's true. There's the medical industry has not been this whatsoever. However, the modern day came from us, came out of us, and that's everything from how to tell blood type, so forth and so on. And when you said that it's not towards us, when you're looking for, when they do experiments on, you ever notice that the rats are always white, albino rats, white outcome. We hope it trickled. They're melanated rats. Experiment on they experiment on white rats because they want a white outcome. Sorry.
That's interesting, and I have not thought, about the analogy between the 2, but that's something I definitely need to do a little more research on. Yeah, Kevin is full of, information. He is full of information, he's full of resources, he's a walking Google. He's a walking Google.com. So but today we're focusing on veterans, and I know that you served in the Gulf War. You are a fierce advocate for veterans. Tell me what it's been like this holiday season for veterans, or you can sort of highlight some of the challenges that veterans are facing today.
Well, in New York, when you travel on the train and you see folks on the train sleeping or that are street homeless, for every 5 of them that you see of this country, and that's unacceptable. This is not just a New York City. This is actually a federal issue. This is happening all over the city, throughout the country. You have veteran homelessness. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. Um,
No.
and what your is the throwaway of veterans, and um, jump to is I'm jumping to the fact that when I joined the Navy one day, I enlisted one day after Saddam Hussein, Kuwait, knowing that I was going to go into war. So
Mm,
to see the majority are without housing is very unacceptable. Systems are busting through the seams. Um, there shouldn't have to go as a veteran. I shouldn't have to go to a city shelter, federal veteran shelter for me to go to. So what I'm doing essentially, I'm going to keep the federal government honest. Service that I gave. So usually we get thank you for your is Veterans Day and Memorial Day. The problem with that is that we are receiving don't really equate to the thank.
mm. What was it like for you, coming back into the community after serving in the war? What was that experience like for you?
It's a great question. Um, a lot of my skills were so getting a job was a little bit of a challenge. But then once I got one, I became a family man. So I had kind of stay true to the whole. I need to stay on this family. But it wasn't an easy transition. Um, a lot of people that are coming out should have more re have some type of retraining opportunities, because if you did demolition in the army, per se, right, you're not going to find a job in the civilian world blowing things up. So
Mm,
what do? Transfer that skill.
mm,
It's not transferable
right,
unless you become mercenary or something like that, and that's not realistic. I'm just,
right.
so veterans are a group of people that has exception. The only one that has more exception other than us would be of the people who built the country, which are foundational Black Americans. Their exception first and foremost, but our exception is right next door and Black American and veteran be able to be taken care of all the way.
Has there been any disparities with uh, foundational Black veterans? and returning back to their communities. Have you noticed in your work any disparities and their accessibility to work, to community, and to other resources?
There, I think the Washington Post came out with and no one's jumping out of the window with this. But I plan on doing it. Foundational Black Americans. Well, it just said Black Americans, but I'll give tribute to Foundational Black Americans. Um, Sitting given janky discharges, so benefits, and so
Hmm.
they hand got kind of caught in the cookie jar with it, and it's just we'll let it pass. Now, if that was a Hispanic issue or LGBTQ issue, you would have mass place. It's an issue that has been we've been redlined. Foundational Black Americans are the most patriotic people in this country. You'll never find anyone more patriotic than a foundational, because we have joined every single war that this country has, from the time Crispus Attucks got shot in the Boston Massacre, which later became the American Revolution. We freed we freed ourselves from Great Britain. We helped make America independent from Great Britain. We're fighting for an independence that we don't necessarily.
Hmm. That's so layered. If we think about I guess black men, or just those that fought blacks in different wars in our nation, we don't necessarily equate that to being patriotic, but it really is. And then, but it's that, and not also experiencing the same liberties that you're fighting to protect. And that's a paradox. It's a paradox in so many ways. You talked about one of the challenges that veterans experience when they're leaving, and they're being discharged, or they're coming back into their communities, and that being transferring of skill sets to be able to utilize that in society or in the communities they live in. So, what would it look like if we were to create programs, or some type of program, where once veterans were discharged, they were able to take skills either that they learned in serving, to support our communities, or to learn skills in serving that they can transfer into the community once they're reintegrated?
Well, I mean, the I think some of the greatest teachers are veterans. There should be an initiative where we attract veterans to become a generation of teachers, because they know how to think quick on their hostile situation. And schools have become very hostile these days. But a lot of us come home with a GI Bill. I'm also fighting GI Bill. I lost my GI Bill, by the way.
Mhm.
I had the Montgomery GI Bill in which to use it.
Mhm.
And again, when I came home, and after 9/11 hit, I said, "Oh man, let me do. I'm gonna go back to school." Long story real short, but I missed it by a month.
Wow.
Um, um, I'm fighting to make like the VA loan. A VA
Hmm.
loan is you get a loan, but at least 90%, 85 to 90, might be the no higher,
Hmm.
die without ever accessing a VA loan to get a house. A Korean War veteran. He fought in the Korean War. He passed away. He never accessed a loan. So you have your VA loan to the day you die. Trying to fight for is to make your GI Bill the same way, because how dare you to tell me when I can't learn? Some people go and get the diploma when they're 90 years old, and we learn to the day we die. And with that said, the GI Bill is not something that the federal government gives. We pay into it. So I lost money on my GI Bill. That's it. It wasn't a gift. I paid into the program.
And that's something that we probably don't know enough about. I'm thinking about a person, a gentleman by the name of Brian Easley, that was owed a check from the Veterans Department and was actually murdered, believe in Wells Fargo Bank in Atlanta a few years ago. And there was a story that the Hollywood actually shot. I don't remember the name of the movie, but it may be called Breaking In or something of that. And I did see that movie, and it really was very heartfelt. It was also it was heartfelt, but it was always very, very insightful into the life of a veteran, and trying to fight for things that should already be theirs, and the plight, the trauma of coming back into a community that you don't fit in, that doesn't understand what you've gone through serving, and then trying to come back in and gather whatever benefits you can. But then the mental health aspect, which is what we haven't even touched on yet, Kevin, is what happens to a person that served and then that comes back into the community and that may be dealing with unmet mental health issues, and that those issues may prevent them from even working. And I think in the case of this person, Brian Easley, he was experiencing some mental health challenges, and he was murdered. He was a veteran. He served the country, and he could not get the resources that was supposed to be his. And I mean, something as small as like a check. But I think one of the things that the movie depicts so clearly is he really just wanted recognition. He wanted to be treated with dignity after serving a country that he essentially gave his life for, and was then put back into society and told to be normal. But there was nothing normal about being normal after going through what he went through after serving. But even in not finding that normality, he was forced to deal with the trauma of living in a society that had rejected him after fighting for that same society. And it's such a paradox that I think a lot of us are so disconnected from.
I saw the movie was, um, but I always, I think the reality is he knew assassinate. He knew that they were going to kill him the whole time in that movie. So
Yeah.
when you get a chance, also look for that's another great movie.
What's the name of it one more
Um,
time?
the Killing Chamberlain.
Okay.
He was a Marine who suffered chronic, and his only crime was he accidentally tripped his medical alert. And this
He-
happened up in Nourish. This happened in Nourish Show. Police
You said he accidentally, what did he do? I'm sorry, Kevin.
tripped his medical alert.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The he, he's an elderly guy. He tripped his medical alert. They did a wellness check, and that wellness check costed him his life.
That's horrible.
And that's another thing that I'm fighting for, because when you shootings, I'm asking we immediately do not, city, the state, it's out of your hand. It's to be picked up federally, or if a veteran dies, it becomes a federal case.
Mm.
So that's kind of one of the things that, because that you had who was shot in the back from running because the child support executed. They found him guilty. I think he's serving 15 years. It's the immediate. And anytime you have a veteran that dies at the hands of soldiers, we should have it. It automatically goes straight to the Fed. There should be no, so your blue wall of silence doesn't even matter at that point because it's a case. Automatic.
I mean, I think that's veterans protection, and I mean that looks exactly like veteran protection. When you know that
Right.
there are serious consequences to killing a veteran who served
Right.
in the country unlawfully, I think absolutely would think twice about how they're handled, and how they're cared for, and how they're esteemed in society.
And there'll be cavities, just regular folk, because we unfortunately we don't walk around with a sign that says like, this is what, like I would say this all the time. What does veteranness look like? It looks like, it looks like me and you. I tell you I served, you wouldn't have never known.
I didn't know.
And so
Mhm.
and I think also, I think homelessness in its just in general, what makes homelessness where it is that it doesn't have a face. To humanize the problem, then maybe you'll have a different result. And that's what I'm trying to realize in the problem, because homeless veterans, America seems very hypocritical when she sits there and she wags her at her adversaries like Iran, China, and North Korea, and Venezuela. She loves to wag her fingers those countries and say, "Oh, you're violating people's human." The last time I checked, veteran homelessness isn't a civil right, and none of those countries have a veteran homeless crisis. It's very hypocritical.
It reminds me quickly, and we're coming to a close. We got to bring you back on, but it reminds me of one of the major controversies right now under the Mayor Eric Adams administration, and that is the coercion of mentally ill that are homeless into psychiatric departments. And that there's so many things flawed with that. You really can't coerce anyone into mental health, to receiving mental treatment, because you're dehumanizing them, right? And one would argue, well, they can't choose, or they don't have the psychological ability to choose. But even in that, you don't give that right to the government to choose for them. You give that right to
Right.
family members, if you can identify them, that love them. But really, to force someone into treatment or rehabilitation, it's a huge um, oxymoron. You just there's no way to do it, because then it becomes punitive and not restorative. But it really reminds me of what's going on right now, with the Mayor Eric Adams 11-point legislative agenda, which I'm really not at liberty to disclose my views. I can disclose it as, separately as an individual, but not representing the organization. But that really is, it's a huge controversial issue right now in New York City. It is these homelessness, and a lot of those that are homeless may have served and may be veterans. And so, there are a lot of things that are going on with the homeless population in New York City. It's a crisis. And the way in which we're not handling it the right way. So if we can leave on maybe a hopeful note and talk to me about what would it look like to
Sure.
better support veterans, those that are homeless. If you were to create this plan or this quick pitch to Mayor Eric Adams and his administration, and told them this is what we need to be doing in terms of looking forward to restore and help our veterans that are homeless, and just those in general, what would that plan or that look like?
Well, I'm going to have the opportunity on January 5th, because I will be standing on the steps
I
of
love it.
City Hall with other veterans, city, the state, and the
Amazing.
federal government treatment of veterans. Will more than likely go up to caucus weekend and do
Nice.
something very similar, talking about behind people's back. I'd rather talk to your face. But
I love
for
it.
they're quick to say we want to be veteran friendly. Well, to be veteran friendly, you have to do something veteran specific. What does something veteran specific look like? Veteran housing, where 100% of a building is going towards veteran housing, and veteran friendly because you're doing something veteran specific. While we do half price Metro cards, we could give it to. Should be able to give it to veterans as well. They earned it. And it becomes it's very very veteran. It's very doable. You can do that. You're not really. In fact, most people walk on the trains and the bus these days without paying. I'm not. One time I get on it, and they're talking about the price is going to go up. So why not give Metro card for being for me serving the country? That's what something looks like. When I took recently this weekend, I took the shuttle train. When I was on the shuttle train, it had Nickelodeon wrapped all around inside. And when we did that back in the early 80s, it was called graffiti and it was ugly, and it was, I guess once you pay for it, it's acceptable. But I mean, veteran specific, show veterans coming home, hugging their families, and being with something that says New York City believes in veteran families. This is how friendly you become veteran specific. But I really don't believe that they. I mean, they haven't even changed the veteran commissioner since the de Blasio, and I'm quick to argue. I think de Blasio is the worst mayor that in the city and in the history of mayoral or people that serve. But you have and you have to understand the problem. You have to be able to identify with the problem. You the problem and not have nothing attached to it. I'd rather have someone that's nice because they know how I'm. They know my soul of rights. But Commissioner Hendon, one, he's from West Point. He's a commissioned officer. I can tell you off the rip. I could count a finger how many commissioned officers I serviced for being homeless and unemployed. None. I think maybe one. The point that I'm trying to make is culturally, he's disconnected from the problem. Then you are the problem.
Right.
And so if he's not hearing it today on this chat we have when we sitting here chopping it up, he will wish you that, because I will be there, and you've known me for a long time, and I mean what I say. So,
that would be accurate.
I don't mix up words too well. So, City of New York and their treatment of veterans.
Sounds like what they're missing is Kevin Meggett on their team. So that I love. I mean, it sounds like you.
There's a whole different mechanic to this. It's important to have that. Could be, yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to end with. It sounds it's exactly what I wanted to end with, Kevin. It sounds
but
like
it's important for housing because
I think our wires may
the person that serves.
Here we go. Mhm.
Okay. Me?
Yeah, it sounds like you're starting, stopping, and then we're
Okay.
clashing
I'm sorry. I'm
in the
sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't
What I was
worry.
gonna say, and then I'll let you talk real quick, is that when you it's an effect on the veteran. You have veteran and you have veteran families that depend on that veteran for survival.
Mhm.
And so you need specific housing for veterans and veteran families.
Mhm.
Brain surgery is easy if you're not a do it, right?
Well, if you're a brain surgeon.
Right. Talk to a vet. That's all you got to do. You got to put what's happening is, and this is just across the board. You have so on an entry level and a mid level, you'll find black people, right? Just we're they're at the we made our quota level, and the higher you go up, not only does not only like us, they ain't us. So a lot of them are not black, are not even veterans. So you have a lot of non-veterans making decisions, and you saying, well, why is it broken? The reality is after security, which is a lot of money. You know how much money is in Social Security. But after VA, Veteran Administration is probably one of the highest resources out there. So there's a constant push, and so that's what veterans have to be mindful of. Do you want VA privatized? And the answer should be no.
Absolutely. And we also need to make sure that veterans like you that have the knowledge, the inside knowledge, the industry knowledge, and the lived experiences are in these places of power. And I think you highlighted that, and that is across the board. At very entry level, at the front line levels, we'll see black faces, but once we get into these more prominent places of power, this is where you don't see as many people that look like us that have the answers to a lot of the problems that exist in our society. And so I love the fact that you're going to be there on January 5th. Fortunately, I can't join you, but I would love to join you for future ones. But for those that may be interested in advocacy in the work that you're doing, can you give a little more information about the January 5th event and about how people could get in contact with you?
Actually, okay. So my email address, KEVIN, the letter C, MEGGE, at gmail.com. The event is actually January. It's at 11 a.m. Just you can show up at City Hall. We'll be out there, and there's other things that I'm actually working on. I'm working on a comedy contest in general, um, but I'm gonna where we just highlighting our veterans because is that we're America is going through another reconstruction period, and what's happening is they're cropping out a group of people that rightfully belong in this picture. So we have to fight. They keep us entertained. What did Kanye say? What did this person do? Oh, who shot who? Those are distractions, so that you can't see the real issues. So look out for distractions, and I appreciate your platform, um, because I do need have to be a veteran to champion veteran issues. So those that aren't veterans that want to, I'll be happy because I took an oath to protect civilians' liberties,
That's
both
right.
foreign and domestic. And so I'm not I fought for your interests. So I'm asking you to come out and fight.
I love that. And I appreciate you saying that. And you truly do champion so many causes in society, from racial to social justice to politics, to veterans, and I appreciate the work that you're doing out there. You're doing amazing work, and you are truly a gift to our community, Kevin. So thank you so much for all that you do. You can follow Kevin there on Facebook. Reach out to him through email, kevinmaggett@gmail.com, if you're interested in his work, especially what he's doing with veterans. This is an under served population, where we tend to just forget about them. But we want to remind them, especially in this holiday season, they are not forgotten. They are valued. They're special. We love them, and we see them. And so, if you're interested in joining his cause and the things that he's doing, please reach out to him and follow him. We don't provide services to veterans at iRaise, but consider us partners, to the work that you do, Kevin. And thank you so much
I
for
appreciate that.
joining. We're going to bring you back on for Black History Month, because we're going to talk about what's going on in our society with racial justice and racial equity. And that's a whole nother tiger. It's a whole nother tiger. But we'll get there next year in 2023. But for now, we appreciate everything in the work that you're doing, and wish you and your amazing, lovely family happy holidays, happy new year, in advance. And we'll be seeing you in 2023. We'll be bringing you back on.
So much. Thank you. And thank all of the viewers. Have an outstanding day.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you all for listening and for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for following Shaniqua Moore on my professional page. I see you out there. I appreciate you. Continue showing me some love. I love hearing your feedback, and just your encouragement. So we'll continue putting out this content, amplifying the messages of our community that we know matters the most to us, to people that look like us, to everyday people. Thank you again. We will be back, I believe. I feel like I don't know my schedule half the time, but we'll be back, I believe, this Thursday. And so stay tuned and continue supporting our podcast, ATL Rise. We have a new episode that's being released this coming Friday, so we don't want you to miss that. But we'll see you next time. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Until we see you again. Thank you all. Stay tuned.